Hello, and welcome to part 2 of 3 for the under 100 metre Best Tall Building category, where we'll take a closer look at our Award of Excellence winners in this category. I'm Carl Fender, founding partner of Fender Katsoulides and chair of the CTBUH Best Tall Buildings jury this year. Our first presentation in this session is on Gala Avenue West Side, located in Shanghai and presented by Qin Pang, Director and Head of Benoit's Shanghai Studio, and He Liu, Deputy Director of Product Research and Development Department, CSSC Complex Property. As the focal form of an immediate precinct comprising lower built forms with an array of exuberant facades, this 18-story building brings a sense of place. Its own screened facades are a strong marker to the community spaces and facilities within this precinct. Now to Qin and He.
Hello, my name is Pang Qin. I'm the chief architect of this project and the head of Shanghai Studio from Benoit. Today is our honor to present and to share one of our projects, winning projects, and to be recognized as one of the winners in this catalog, under 100 meters. And together today with me is Ms. Liu He from client side. She is a representative of client, and she will give a very brief introduction of this project, the challenge of this project. And I will take maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes to give a little bit detailed introduction for this project, including the master plans and elevations, facade, all these kind of detailed things. Okay, so Ms. Liu He, please.
Thank you, Qin. Hi, dear leaders of CTBUH, peers and friends, how are you? Today, it's a great honor that the Gala Avenue West Side, which is developed and constructed by our company, China State Shipbuilding Corporation, and designed by the Benoit team. It has been recognized as an award of excellent winner in the Best Tall Building and 100 meters category by CTBUH and international jury experts. I'm also very grateful that we have this great opportunity to introduce our project to you in this new virtual method with all the adjustments and efforts made by the CTBUH after the impact of COVID-19 in 2020. Gala Avenue West Side Tower project is a key part of Gala Avenue West Side Retail Street mixed-use scheme, and also the final work of Lujiazui Harbor City, recorded HBC. It's an industrial regional revival project. Harbor City is built on an old Shanghai shipyard site which is founded in 1862. It has been an icon of the shipbuilding industry in Shanghai for more than a century. In order to build a high-quality 1.36 million square meter metropolis complex, many international renowned design teams were invited to carry out planning and architectural design. The Harbor City includes 8 high-rise financial office buildings, 140,000 square meter commercial landmark, 11,500 square meter luxury residence, an art center which were revitalized from old shipyard facility, and a Mandarin Oriental hotel. First, the project location sits on prime riverside landscape, but due to the flood control requirements of the Huangpu River, there is a height difference of 2.5 meters between the road and the riverside area. How would it be possible to enjoy the view of the riverside landscape from public spaces, such as the lobby and the lift hall? Second, the project is located in Lujiazui, the CBD of Shanghai, where it is surrounded by high-rise buildings of more than 200 meters. But the height limit of our project is only 100 meters. What kind of facade design would highlight the unique characteristics of our project and make it stand out? Thanks God, we find Qin and the Benoit team dissolved all the difficulties and delivered an excellent final piece of the harbor city. Now let me hand over to Qin to introduce the design details of this project.
Thanks, Ms. Liu He, for your kind words and all the support during the design and construction process. I think the final result is really great. We are very honored to have this kind of projects along the Huangpu River. So if you see the screen here, you can see the skyline of Pudong area. A lot of towers. That was all. Almost all the towers was constructed during the past 3 decades. That was a great achievement of China government and Shanghai government and Shanghai people. And also we are happy to be a part of the skyline of Pudong area. And you can see roughly, you can see the tip of the tallest building in the Shanghai Center. And surround that is a WTC, World Financial Center, and another Jimou Tower, you can see a little bit. So this is all come together, become a CBD of Shanghai. It's a very important economic and financial center of China. So this is a public space. You can see from the public space, public plaza, you can see our building. The whole development, by the way, is developed by the same developer. You can see all the building on the images designed by the same developer. So the whole public spaces, you can see from here, behind the camera is designed by OMA. It's a smaller pavilion. It's just a few thousand square meters. We're working together as a future destination for Shanghai, for Pudong area. There are some numbers of this, some key numbers of this project is 91.5 meters high, and the total gross floor area is about 36,000 square meters. This is from the junction of Jimou Road and Yincheng Road. Yincheng Road, people call Yincheng Road is like Wall Street of Shanghai. There's a lot of banks and insurance company. So it's a kind of financial street. So the tower itself, we want to have a kind of quite clear approach to the tower. But unfortunately, outside is quite irregular. It's there's no wide connection, no wide access from the public road. Only there's a ramp to connect the drop-off with the building. And also there's another one on the basement we can introduce with later. And surround the tower, there's small pavilions, a lot of small pavilions. It will be a like flagship store in the future. We'll like some other famous brands into that, and also some F&B. So all this kind of purpose for the building is we try to bring people come here, because this is a last piece land among the whole development. We just try to use this single building to connect on the different levels, like basement and level 2 with bridge with other our neighbors. So we work together as a whole development, as a whole destination. So if you read the map, you can see a little bit idea about what is where is our site. The Pudong area and the Puxi area, this Putuo district and the Xujiahui area. So along the river, our tower is, of course, it's not tallest one, but still, it can't be, it can't be ignored because it's quite unique. It's quite different compared with others. But also we want to work together with others. We don't want to compete with others. We just want to be a part of it. So that is an attitude of design, for this project. And very happy the client also accept it, and we work together to come up with the final result. The surrounding buildings, there's a lot of famous towers you can see there as World Financial Center, Bank of China, like Jimou Tower, a lot of buildings. So how to have a kind of a conversation with those dialogue, with those buildings? If you see the surrounding buildings, they're all tall buildings almost. Everyone is around 200 meters, 300 meters, or even 600 meters. So our building is 100 meters. How can we make our building a kind of unique texture? And you can see the tower itself on the left side corner, and on the right side you can see the blue part is our tower. It's not, again, it's not the biggest one, it's not tallest one, but still we try to weave into the site very peacefully and friendly. And the smaller pavilions, we just give a kind of a little bit high density, but with a very comfortable human scale public spaces. We call this kind of sponge city. We just try to bring and attract more people come here and enjoy the public space in the future. You can see the longest one on the water edge is it was a factory, it's a shipyard, and it was designed by King Kuma to do a little bit retail and also F&B and a theater there. So the entire development will be a very important destination for Pudong people and also for the Shanghai people. That is a very beginning stage. We did a sketch for the whole site. This is our understanding of the site, and we tried to find out the relationship between history and now. Unfortunately, all the building on the site was demolished because condition was not good. That was original built 100 years ago, so quality is not good, so it was demolished. But again, we just try to use our design language to bring some sort of memory back into the design. So if you see the massing, this is a generating process from empty site, and we have smaller pavilions. That is the kind of background of the tower. It's a kind of root of the tower. The tower itself is just 91 meters high, so it's not tall, and we just have a very easy way to access to the public, like shopping street area, and also we have a clear drop-off on ground floor and basement. So when you drive from our other side to here, you can very easy to find the drop-off, find the ramp into the basement parking. So from this master plan, you can have a clearer understanding of the whole site, the treatment of the towers, the relationship between each one. Another key thing is, like Ms. Liu had mentioned, our site actually is a waterfront project, but still there is a around 100-meter wide green belt on the north part. It means on ground level and the second level, you can't see the river itself. So you have to think about how to maximize the value of level 3 for the retail street, also for the tower. So I think we can describe this one on the ground floor and the second floor. You can see we have a different way to deal with the lobby things. There is another important thing for this site is there is 2.5 meter difference in terms of the level. I mean, from the north to south, there is a sloping. On the right side is the Jimo Road, is a sloping road basically, and the lowest part is on the south part, which is our main entrance. So in the entrance, you have to solve some other important things for the whole development, like the drop-off, as I said, like the short front of the retail street, and also the main plaza. This is another important requirement from the client. This is our initial sketch for the tower drop-off area, and you can see we try to solve the tower itself and also the smaller scale pavilions, how to have a kind of very friendly dialogue, and also solve some issues like how to bring the people from this level to the basement parking. And you can see from the ground level plan, the triangle actually is a main entrance of the tower. There's a staircase and also escalators on the right side, of the lobby, and bring people from level 1 to level 2. As I said before, because there is a 100-meter wide green belt on the north side, so the lobby actually in this building is located on level 2. On level 2, allow people to have a kind of clearer river view, from the lobby itself. So give people a kind of a fresh idea, because this is riverside. We try to maximize the value of the views. And the right side photo is a main plaza of the retail part. Still, when people enjoy the outside atmosphere and enjoy the sunshine things, even the picture itself is a little bit gray, but you can see the tower. We just try to highlight the tower. And the typical floor of the tower is quite simple. You can see like 2 units and share the vertical core. Because the whole design was originally designed for 2 banks. So they have some similar requirement for the areas and also for the depths of the office. So the developer decided maybe we can have this kind of idea, like 1 core has 2 different units. But when we design things and they change their mind, and they want to use this one at the headquarters. So, but we still keep the plan layout because they think this is also working well. And the facade itself, again, in Shanghai, there is a very tough regulation for the glass ratio. For example, you can't do the full glazing tower in Shanghai. There has to be like 30% or 40% solid wall on the towers. So you have to deal with the solid material and the glass, and how to combine these two materials, two different caricature, and weave them together into this facade. So we are just trying to use a kind of very typical units, but like a customized for this building, like crystal-like, and you have different three-dimensional fitting, and you have movement fitting for the facade, and also this one can give a kind of very comfortable areas to reduce the solar gain because we have more solid wall compared with other fully glazed towers. This is also kind of very passive way to dealing with sustainable issues for the tower. This is a little bit clearer. You can see the facade units, and when sun comes from the south, and you have a reflection, of course, and you have the less area for glass. And when people stand inside the tower, you still have to maximize the view. You can't see, your eyesight cannot be blocked by the solid wall. That is our target, and we reach the goal. So we talk about the skyline because the skyline, as I said, is 91.5 meters high. Compared with 600 meters Shanghai center is nothing, right? But we are on the short front. We just try to be a kind of like a little brother, little sister role in the whole skyline, in the whole building groups. So that is 2017 under construction. Basically, everything is shaping up, and the tower is level 3 or level 4 already. It's running up. In 2018, so the pavilion, smaller pods, smaller retail villa is almost finished, and the tower is cladding. You can see the relationship between the river and the towers. It's not very close to the river, but the tower itself can see the river very clearly. And this is a riverfront, the skyline during the nighttime. Because architecture design, has a kind of a strong character. So the lighting design, we just try to make the language easier to read and highlight the building outline in the night. And this is our purpose. I think this working well during the nighttime. And also the tower and the pavilion, we have a kind of different character, but still have a similar DNA. And it's kind of friendly and bright, and also it's kind of modern. If you look closer of this tower, and it's just vertical two units, and with a horizontal language to link them together as a lobby, for the whole towers. So you can see from these two units, between those, and we have some horizontal languages by using a lot of details to link them together. Even it's a box, but we try to make the box a little bit more interesting. This is more a close look, some details. And also this is nowadays the relationship between the building and the background, and also I think it fitting the whole surrounding quite well, and have a kind of very frank and friendly dialogue with other like banks or residential buildings and the towers. Some detail of the top. It's quite clean and very simple treatment. And as I said, because this is not only a tower, there's 13 small pavilions surround the tower. So the pavilion itself is still designed by using different languages. We just give people a different feeling, right? This is a retail, this is a shopping center, this is a shopping street, it's a retail and also F&B. So when people come here, they have a different feeling, and this is our purpose. Some more details, and this is a lobby. On the left side, when people drop off, when people moving, they can take the escalator to reach a higher level. You can see the riverside, you can see the river view. So that is the thing we talk about on the plan. So this is a clearer interior view, and this is a level 2 lobby. So behind the camera, you can see the Huangpu River. So that is roughly it's our introduction to this project. And again, I want to emphasize, our purpose for this building is a kind of human scale public space. And when people come here, they feel safe, they feel very in nature, and they can enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the ventilation, and you have shading device to make you comfortable. And also the text is quite rich. You have a brickwork, you have a metal panel, you have glass. You have a lot of different feelings in this kind of space. So that is, I think, it's a future of the public spaces. It's not only just like a very isolated tower. It can be and also need be connected with surrounding environment, with surrounding textures, fitting the environment rather than challenge the surrounding buildings. And also working together with the landscape and other human scale and detailed things. So all this one work together come up with this building. So thank you everyone for your attention. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Quinn and He. Next, we have Hourglass, located in Amsterdam. This extremely well-mannered 18-story building acts as a convincing cornerstone to its precinct, with a carefully considered sculptural presence. The form of the building responds to the internal uses and the presence of surprising internal atria. We'll now hear from Ton Boon, Development Director at Marsen Group, and Diederik Dam, owner of Dam & Partners, Architekten.
Good afternoon. My name is Ton Boon and I'm the Development Director for Saks Vastgoed, a joint venture of Marsen Group and Zadelhoff Beheer. Both Marsen Group and Zadelhoff are family businesses with a long and impressive track record in developing real estate in the Netherlands and more specific in the greater Amsterdam region, including the Zuidas business district. Working together for over 50 years, it was in the late 90s that the companies bought the infamous tennis park called Popeye Goldstar, with its courts directly adjacent to the A10 motorway around the capital. The tennis park was acquired with a long-term vision of developing commercial and residential real estate aside the prosperous southern side of Amsterdam, in close vicinity of the VU University and Academic Hospital, the so-called Knowledge Quarter. Marsen always envisioned this location to be developed into a high-quality, mixed-use neighborhood where living, working and relaxing would go hand in hand. The Zuidas today is rapidly being developed into a vibrant new city district that is easily accessible from anywhere in the world. To improve the urban mobility, the ringway will be locally lowered below ground and the train station will be extended to form a hub of improved travel network around Zuidas and Amsterdam. Having worked closely together with the local planning authorities for years, the development really kick-started in 2016 with a request for a design proposal for a new head office for Loyens & Loeff, one of the leading Dutch law and tax firms. The aim was to design a warm and gentle head office that related to all the benefits of the existing office, but would also attract young and ambitious lawyers. A new clubhouse as an important instrument in the war on talent and a cornerstone for the entire Knowledge Quarter. After adding a boutique apart hotel with 115 premier suites to the program, the mixed-use development was agreed with the local authorities and the development truly started. Leading Dutch architectural firm Dam & Partners Architekten was commissioned to design a landmark building integrating the head office function with the hotel suites, the retail units in the plinth, a large bicycle parking in the heart of the building and a two-story underground car parking. After the design was finalized early 2017, planning permits were easily granted by the end of 2017 the contractors broke ground. After only 26 months of construction, the project was delivered in the spring of 2020. Key to the success of this development was the true collaboration on all levels. At this point, I would like to introduce to you some of the key players in the process. First, as developers, Maarse Groep and Zadelhoff have been working closely together as one team. Also, the end users occupying the building have been on board from the very beginning of this process. The local authorities, with their ambition to move Zuidas towards a more dynamic area. We've had a fruitful partnership with Prem Hospitality to add their short stay program to the building. And last but not least, we worked very close together with the investors, Bouwinvest, to achieve their sustainability goals. All in all, collaboration played an important role in the development and the design process of Hourglass. Moreover, it's ingrained in the building's DNA and its daily use. I am proud to introduce Diederik Dam to elaborate on the design principles of Hourglass, and I hope you will enjoy his presentation as much as we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ton. As previously explained, Hourglass takes a key position in the new urban plan of the Zuidas. It demarcates the future so-called knowledge quarter and forms the first link between the train station and some of the main destinations on the Zuidas, such as the courthouse and the VU University. The building serves as a cornerstone, both literally and figuratively speaking, for the adjacent development. This calls for a building that stands firmly in its grounds and that seems substantial and sturdy, yet open and inviting. This objective translated to an abstract sculpture as the architectural starting point. The design brings all functions together in a tailored building that suits its main occupants as well as its urban use. The architecture was initially inspired by the geometric works of Romanian sculptor Constantin Brancusi. By chiseling away all excess volume around atria in the top and the bottom of the building, an hourglass shape was created. This sculptural approach to design was emphasized by the choice of material. The entire facade is cladded with natural white sandstone, creating therefore the impression that the sculpture was carved from one single piece of stone. Furthermore, the facade cladding gives Hourglass a warm appearance and sets the building off against the predominantly glass and steel identity of the Zuidas. The sculpture is finished by adding floor-to-ceiling windows that are vertically arranged over the facades to open up the building to the environment. In the initial pitch to the main tenant of the office space, the renowned lawyer and tax office of Loyens & Loeff, we presented a concept that was tailored to their needs for a workplace that is open and inviting, as well as informal. We rejected the idea of a large central atrium in favor of better suited, smaller upper and lower atria, related to daylight, entering deep into all floors and stimulating cross-practice communication. Not coincidentally, it was this very slide that truly convinced the lawyers of our proposition. The building consists of a number of stacked spaces and atria of different scales and sizes. Besides the large atrium on the lower floors and the smaller atrium on the upper floors, there are a couple of floors in the middle of the building that reach from facade to facade. This is how we created diversity in floor usage. And because the surrounding workspaces are adjacent to the windows and more or less the same depth, the building automatically gets the shape of an hourglass. This diversity in floor usage also allows Loyens & Loeff to create multiple identities within their office. It caters to their wish to offer their employees a combination of private as well as open workspaces. In particular, the openness of these atria stimulates internal communication and collaboration in an informal setting. The top floor of the building has a large skylight and gives access to the rooftop. This is the perfect atmosphere for the firm's meeting center and boardrooms. The facades taper 3 meters inwards towards the center of the building. The result is a sculpture-like building that required a tailor-made construction method in order to be able to create that carved silhouette. The windows, however, are placed at a straight angle for optimal sunlight reflection. In combination with the inclined facades, this creates a monolithic effect. To enhance the monolithic effect further, all seams in the facades are a maximum of 12 millimeters wide, creating a seamless outer appearance. The joints between the different elements measure the same width as the joints between the sandstone panels, which emphasizes the quality and the precision of this sculptural building, a truly innovative working method. The entire facade is constructed of 585 prefabricated elements, measuring 7 by 4 meters. Due to the geometric shape of hourglass, there's a lot of variation between the elements in terms of geometry, size and thickness. Therefore, the facade cladding needed to be custom made and cut. The facade elements were produced off-site by builders as concrete sandwich elements with a sandstone cladding. Besides the facade cladding, insulation as well as windows were already installed at the factory. Given the complexity of this relatively small plot in its urban context, this integral approach to the prefabrication process was needed to reduce the construction time on-site and minimize the impact on its surroundings. Using mostly prefab elements guaranteed a fast and safe building process. The facade cladding can easily be disassembled and replaced in case of any damages. Low maintenance extends the life cycle of this smart building and contributes to its sustainability objectives. The facades are completed with the installation of the glass corners, which are placed at the same angle as the sloped facades. The combination of inclined and straight windows allows users to really experience the unique hourglass shape of the building in a very tactile and comprehensible manner. The two-story windows on the ground floor establish the building's connection to its context and add to the vibrancy of the plinth. To the south, the plinth is connected to the office building door Noma House, which was also designed by our firm, Dam & Partners Architecten. The public functions, such as lobbies and commercial spaces, are facing the adjacent square and train station to the northeast to anchor the building in its social context. Back of house as well as the underground parking are accessible on the west side of the building. There's also a large bicycle parking on the ground floor, with space for over 500 bikes, which we all use a lot in the Netherlands. This way, employees are encouraged to leave their car at home and take the bike instead, benefiting both their own well-being as well as the environment. Upon entering the Loyens & Loef lobby on the ground floor, visitors are immediately welcomed by one of the receptionists. There's no fixed reception desk in the lobby to create a more inviting and informal environment. From here, a comfortable terrazzo staircase effortlessly leads the visitors up to the first floor. The interior design was co-created with Powerhouse Company in close collaboration with a project group of employees of Loyens & Loef. This group was initiated to assure that the new office would reflect their diverse team of lawyers and tax professionals. The interior color palette is built upon and around light wood in combination with subtle green tones and natural stone. Paired with ample glass partitions, green walls and vegetation, the offices have a comfortable light interior and a fresh beauty to them. Seamless detailing is continued as a theme inside. Collaboration between architect and interior designer proved essential to achieve the high quality level of detail. The first floor is the social heart of the building. There's a boardroom to facilitate collaboration between internal teams or clients, a restaurant and a bar on the other side of the floor, and a large accessible patio. The sense of community that is brought about by all of the social facilities on the first floor makes visitors and employees feel more comfortable. The building has a square-shaped footprint with an L-shaped volume of up to 80 meters high placed on top. This allows for more sunlight to enter deep into all office floors, benefiting the user's well-being and focus. Heating is connected to a central system of Amsterdam, and Hourglass makes use of aquifers for cooling. The building is completely tailored to the purpose and the values of the tenants in terms of architecture, sustainability, quality and interior. Positioned next to one of the country's main public transport hubs, The building is labelled BREEAM Excellent for design and execution. The office is open to its employees 24/7. Therefore, the building features a large number of amenities to foster a sense of community and make employees as comfortable as possible. Among others, there's a large cafeteria that is in no way inferior to a real restaurant. The Loyens Louvre project team specifically asked for large community tables in the restaurant to be able to connect with their co-workers during break time. From the restaurant, employees also have access to the patio on the first floor. In the first place, the patio is a great added value for the first employees. However, it also contributes to the local ecosystem of Amsterdam. In collaboration with an ecologist, several solutions such as beehives and birds' nests were integrated in the design of Hourglass. Furthermore, in terms of water management, a large mirror pond was installed. The building fulfills the sustainability goals of owner, developer and users. Ultimately, Hourglass is about connecting its users to form a community. It's synergy of the mixed program together with constructive innovation that forged the identity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ton and Diedrich. Our next presentation is on Infinity, which is located in Sydney. This building presents as a huge civic sculpture, which demands further investigation. Its full beauty needs to be derived by reading it in the round. It's quite a daring design, and yet is majestically pragmatic in its delivery of the internal planning requirements. Iwan Sanito, Group Chairman and CEO of Crown Group, and Koichi Takada, Principal of Koichi Takada Architects, will now present.
Hi, my name is Iwan Sanito, the Chairman and the Group CEO of Crown Group, a development company that develop high-rise buildings in urban context, and hotel, and also shopping center across the city of Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Los Angeles, and Indonesia. What started the vision of the Infinity by Crown Group was the vision of bringing the future present. In this precinct of Green Square, the council is spending $8 billion to create a new town centre. And within this development, we have a vision of creating a mixed development that consisted of residential, hotel, conference centre, retail, and all of this directly opposite the state-of-the-art library to become a junction for the community to come together. We ran a design competition, and the City of Sydney has requested for us to nominate 3 architects to do that job. But it is also the preference for Koichi Takada not to be included in the design competition. The reason being is that Koichi has been designing the last 2 buildings for Crown Group, and they prefer a new style that are emerging in that. My proposition to the judges on that time was simply this, that I thought that design competition was created to encourage innovation and design. We are saying, look, we want to create an icon not only for the City of Sydney, but we also want to mark this building to be the next shifting point into Crown Group before we go into developing across the world. And so that's how the story came, and it's a building that becomes not only a landmark, but also a place where the community comes together, and it's nice to be part of that history for the City of Sydney.
Hi everyone, I'm Koichi Takada, the principal of Koichi Takada Architects based in Sydney. I always wanted to ask you actually, Yuan. So this competition process, myself, my team were quite an underdog going in, and I suppose you let us in, willing to take a little bit of risk. And a competition is really about a celebration of creativities, and I suppose for architects' mind, willing to take that risk in design. And during the lengthy process to finally convince everyone, including the Lord Mayor, to us that was real challenge. If this was the football match, we had to go into the extension of time, keep fighting to convince that this is the winner. And then obviously the heart of that decision maker was essentially you. Was a lot of pressure understood was on yourself to take the rendered image, which was essentially quite as you mentioned, futuristic. And I keep remember that everybody had seen that visualization in rendering, said, can you actually build this building?
I didn't know that you feel like you're the underdog. As a developer, you gotta sometimes take the initiative, and sometimes you gotta take your vision and you work with it and fight for it. And because to see this vision to reality, that you gotta achieve a certain price bracket, and not everybody wants to take that risk. The great thing is that we both love architecture, that passion sells, and today, as a brand, Crown Group has benefited so much out of this building. So therefore, the commercial benefit out of building an amazing building actually exceeded what it cost us to build.
And I remember to build this building, obviously we needed to pay more. You had to bring more funding, let's say, but hence the price had to go up. However, 3,000 people plus had registered, wanted to come to the grand launch and launching party, and a lot of people wanted to be in this place. And that was really astonishing. And this was even before we have started construction. We were going to be tested, but we passed the test with the public. People had responded. If not politically, it was sort of a very perhaps a difficult decision in terms of doing something so different from the rest. What if we really put everything that is in innovation to celebrate what the future living could do in this context, in particular part of the Sydney. The other thing is, I think that sort of the question about challenges in building this building. We obviously had the Opera House 50 odd years ago, when Opera House was conceived and born, let's say, gone through a lot of hardship. And part of it is related to the cost. And then obviously any development, people question about the cost. You need to create the balance. However, technology saved us, I think, in our cases. 50 years later, you look at this type of building, people would say, it's such a complex building. But equally with the computer technology, and this was fully three-dimensionally built and documented, everything was designed in three-dimensional, not even 2D. So with that state-of-art technology, we could literally create the more cost-effective construction in the building in itself. Everything just came into the right place in the right time.
And the right location too. In the right location. Somehow this design of that gentle curve that you created responded so well with the piazza across it. I don't think that this design can fit in anywhere else as beautifully as where it is here.
I think that's a good point, because everybody also, another thing is that misunderstands this building with the first impression. In fact, this responds to the site. The way that this building is sculpted allow more daylight to the public library plaza. I think about 2,000 square meter of year-long daylight, additional daylight that we allow. And without this, the library, this particular library is proposed underground with a skylight. So we would have completely blocked if we had just gone straight up. But we sculpted to allow the daylight. But equally, you could have just shut your building with a gate and create this semi-private open space, but instead we open up to the public, to let the public in. And then by way of doing that, we created this big hole in the facade. Because you would not get the daylight in the middle of the winter during lunchtime. This was a rational process to get to this shape and this sort of evocative building design.
Because most of the concept that has been presented is actually blocking the whole thing and does not celebrate the central courtyard itself. And most developers probably think about, like keep everything private there, and instead of saying bring the community together. But it's just a wonderful space where communities and publics are merging together into this space here.
It's quite fluid, isn't it? It's almost blurring the boundary between the public and the private, residential and the public interface.
I think in your word, Coach, it is a city within a city. It's a micro city within a bigger city. Within that, there was all this residential, hotel, retail, conference center, celebration, festival, train station. Everything becomes in one place here.
And we talked about Sydney as, the city that balance between, let's say, nature and the city. We always talk about, in my practice, nature-inspired architecture. In this particular one, it's really about creating this aerodynamic shape. And obviously in Ireland side, and it's quite a windy, northwesterly sun we constantly receive throughout the year. So by drawing a wind around the building, calming the turbulence, and when you walk on, it's quite windy, and also opening the hole, letting the wind through the building into the courtyard and then pushes through the apartment. And so in other words, cooling the building down constantly in a natural means. What I found fascinating is that working or shaped by the wind, let's say, or shaped by the light as well as shaped by the wind. So the shape by the wind, we recently asked Arab to check the performance that this building is making. So this is not during design. We knew this would perform, but we wanted to know how it's performing today. So we created this public space in the middle of the building. And of course, we created this hole to let the daylight as well as the wind through. And in other words, designed to breathe. So in other words, you create this microcosm of the space. And when you're in it, surrounding the building, when you walk, it's quite windy. But when you go into the corridor, all of a sudden, wind stops. It's a magic. It's this sense of aerodynamic going upward, downwards. But these pockets of public space is indeed the heart of building, but equally perhaps the most comfortable place you can be. It's very cozy in terms of scale. You get nice daylight, but equally from a wind point of view, it's really calming space. So we found that it's really fascinating that sometimes when you look at the images of building in the internet, you really don't quite understand how you experience it until you actually be there. So the Infinity by Crown Group, this has a lot of that experience, not just in terms of visually speaking, but comfort. And then as opposed to connection to nature in this particular, it's still urbanized areas, but you feel the nature is always surround you and always constantly present in within this modern looking building.
The swimming pool with this 13-story canopy was nothing like it.
Isn't it?
And what's wonderful about the pool there, now I discover, when families are staying in a hotel there, they kept on telling me that we've been in the pool for about 5 hours. I said, that long? I said, I've never seen people sitting in the pool for 5 hours. They said it's wonderful because we get the sunlight all day long.
Yeah.
And that was like something I thought, wow, it's how you bring nature, not only just the garden space, the experience, but also nature like the sunlight. How important is that aspect into making people wanting to experience the building? So that was really fascinating, and just the magical experience, the sunlight.
But equally, it's the, like bit like Sydney topography goes up and down. It's quite a landscape experience. Yes. We call it Landscape Tower. It's a bit like a condensed version of the Sydney as an experience. So you could go up and down, look up. There's multiple levels in which, as you mentioned, at the Sky Lounge, you can go up, connect to the city view, but equally, we have the window looking down to the pool.
Yeah, that was quite a surprise.
Yes. So all of this, makes people connect with the building. And in fact, some people talk about that circular window that look down to the pool.
Yeah, I didn't know that there was a circular window until you finish the building.
Yeah, and something like that really brings people together. And it's sometimes more important than building itself.
Unless you believe in your vision, unless you really love what you do, you wouldn't take this challenge, building this building. Because simply, people will just adopt what's a fair market price around the area here. And then with that, they'll then tailor the whole building budget to it. And then say, look, we got to build it with this. And to do that, therefore, you got to value engineer the whole thing. And when people talk about value engineering, they often immediately fall into this thinking that value engineering is about cutting costs. I said, no, value engineering means adding value into the development. I can cut costs. I can also increase costs where I can make better income. So in this building here, and like many buildings that we've done today until what we're going to do, it's about what's the bottom line. If it means that you're going to throw in another $10 million more to make wonderful building that engages the heart, the mind, and the spirit of people and creates the brand value, what's the brand value? For instance, a 10% brand value for Crown Group $5 billion project is a $500 million. We got to redefine the word of the value engineering. And immediately when I tell my people, value engineer, they said, okay, what can I cut? The glass, the railing, everything. And then the building becomes ugly at the end of the day. But we say, no. The iconic nature of that building has made this building so futuristic. And I am confident that I wouldn't see another building of this kind for the next 20 to 30 years. This is so futuristic and it's just ahead of its time.
A lot of people talk about this building, again, going back to talking about the visualization in render. In fact, what we see today is better than render.
Always. What you did is,
yeah, and I think this is really the testament to your philosophy of value add as a developer. And this is very interesting because it's quite a brave and courageous things to do. But we equally saw this incredible opportunity to create something extraordinary in this particular site. But equally, Public Art responded, having looked at the render and said, wow, this is not possible to build in Sydney. Now they look at the actual building and go, well, it just looks like a render, or in fact, it's better than render. And it's again, this is really the result of you sticking to your philosophy of the value add so that the building itself kept the integrity of design. Creating great architecture is about having a good relationship. And for us, I think my team and your team had a great working relationship. It was very close. And I must say, this was our third major building. And by the time we got to this building, we really map up a lot of things that we couldn't perfect in the previous building, but we kept improving as a team. This building really is about humanizing architecture. To me, building is not just about creating something that people can experience, but something that people remember. And we obviously intend to, create a place within the community and connect with the people, and then creating this sort of landscape tower instead of going too high and become too dominant. This was very much a democratic way of creating the landscape that people can connect to in humanizing architecture. And then very much I found that the people that live, work, experience the building carry that spirit today.
Wow.
Yeah, and I found that's really quite a rewarding as an architect.
I have to say that I really enjoyed that process of working together with you and your team. Right? I mean, you are the brand maker of Crown Group in terms of its design. I mean, I have the passion of architecture and I can design, but I know that without somebody who is passionate, who loves what they do, but not only that, really working really hard to come up with something that is thoughtful, not trying to be different, but trying to be good, really great. Probably when we look back one day, proud of is that we can be proud of that we have left a legacy for the city of Sydney. We've broken the barriers of the limitation of thinking that the building has to be just boxy. So I think that's probably one thing that I think we can be proud of, is really living that legacy of a building that inspires the residents, the community, but also fellow developers and other architects.
Thank you, Iwan and Koichi. Next, we have River City 3 in Toronto, presented by David Wex, Partner, Urban Capital, and Andre Perrot, Principal, Saucier and Perrot Architects. This project is an admirable demonstration of how high-density residential need not be repetitive and soulless. Not only that, it has transformed an unlikely, difficult site into a recognisable and compelling place to live. It's a terrific example of highly successful urban regeneration. Now to David and Andre.
We always said that our goal in this development would be a striking gateway into the city. We said it would be unlike anything else, and it is. We started with what was a derelict, unknown part of the city, surrounded by infrastructure, with no one really ever having any expectation about it. And we turned it into this iconic community that delivered unique and spectacular homes for 1,500 people. River City is an urban development. It consists of about 1,000 units over 4 distinct buildings, many of them connected by such things as overhead bridges. The site is bisected by the Don Valley ramps. It's just surrounded on all sides by hard infrastructure. It's surrounded by parks that are developed by Waterfront Toronto, and it has green space that we ourselves have developed. River City 3 in particular was extremely complex in terms of design and the fact that every floor plate is different. It's a different genre, it's a different typology of building. The whole River City development is so unique because of its breadth and its size and also its architectural ambition. But I think it has totally opened up the city's eyes to what is possible in terms of residential development.
West Don Lands has a very long history. It's been an industrial site with tanneries and auto body shops and distilleries and extremely contaminated. It's also in the flood zone of the Don River. The land sat with nothing happening on it for over 20 years because no one could quite figure out how to remediate and flood protect it in a cost-effective way. So that was our job when we came on as Waterfront Toronto, was to figure out how to do that. And so the solution for the flood protection was to build a massive earthen berm across the site all the way down the banks of the Don River.
The Don River serves close to 1 million people when you think of its full watershed further north. And so the embankments on both sides are very vulnerable. When I look at a project like River City, I see how it fits into the kind of hydrology and engineering and embankment strategy for the entire Don River, which is one of the most important rivers that frame the city, because Toronto is a city on a Great Lake and it's bounded by the 2 river systems, the Humber and then the Don. I think the site itself is so difficult and it presents so many challenges on so many levels, from how to build on a site like that with the soil conditions. The geometry of the site was difficult, the proximity to the expressways and the proximity to the river. There's an amazing level of complexity at the urban scale, at the environmental scale. This was such a difficult site to develop.
The appeal of the River City site, to me at least, was the incredible challenge that it represented. Physically, the site is bisected by the access to the Don Valley ramps. It had the Gardiner that's surrounded by railways, and King Street is elevated compared to it. This is probably the hardest infrastructure of any site in the city of Toronto. We felt that we could really embrace that and respond to it in a positive way, as opposed to what most developers might do, which is either try to ignore it, downplay it, just pretend it's not there. The other interesting thing is that the land itself was totally outside the consciousness of Torontonians. No one knew where it was. And how were we going to get people excited about basically a site that was surrounded by transportation infrastructure? But I think we thought that we had a great opportunity to shine because it was such a difficult site. Urban Capital was a much different company back in 2007. We had done a couple of relatively small condominium buildings in Toronto. We had done a larger one in Ottawa, my hometown, and we had gone and done a project in Montreal, which was a lot of fun. River City, in a way, was our coming back to Toronto, hopefully to make a big splash after we had gone to these two other cities. And I think we had the attitude and the street cred and the sort of urban feel of who we were, that we would do well with this site.
So Waterfront Toronto runs a very rigorous request for proposals process when we take government land out to the market. We have very high expectations. So we are trying to build complete communities that have amenities, schools, daycares, beautiful architecture is very important to us. Also sustainability. So we expect very high design standards in the buildings. We had a lot of submissions for the RFQ. I think there were probably about 18. We narrowed that down to 5, and we had 5 fairly good bids, but Urban Capital's bid sort of stood out among all of them. They were the clear winner because of their commitment to the design in particular. That was absolutely put them over the top, but also their commitment to the sustainability. They also had a commitment to creating communities and not just building one-off buildings. So we knew we could partner with them and have a very successful project together.
The only firm that I thought would really understand and whose architectural language was right for this was Saussure Perrot. They're not modernists, they're not historicists. This site calls for something that's unique, and so for me there was never a question.
We didn't do much condo building before, and this is exactly what David Wex was interested in. He was interested in the fact that we will bring something fresh, something new. He was proposing a new vision, and he in a way, he asked us for that new vision. So we had a very, very, very open playground to propose something different.
This was and still is our highest building ever for Saussure Perrot. So it was something that makes you dream, when you have to imagine what you will create. You will mark the skyline, you will influence the skyline of Toronto when you create it, so you really think about it carefully.
The first time I saw the site, it was a flat wasteland, very much nothing there as an inspiration. So right at the beginning that we had to create a new environment. Not only buildings, but an environment, something that will connect to nature and propose a totally new vision of this area. This is not a static site. It's really active. It's kind of accepting its condition, which is living in the city, and accepting what is living in the city. The fact that we have the highway going through, that it's at the end of something, is something important. What do you do? In most of city, people will build big wall on both sides because you don't want to see that, you don't want the noise of it. At the opposite of that, we took that as energy. This idea of objects turning around with the highway going through and finishing with a tower at the end. So this is this idea of transformation, that energy that project the building up in the air to become finally the phase 3.
The genius of the project is that somehow they managed to make a composition where you feel the bigger dynamic relationship. And I think that River City somehow has managed to relate to the speed and flow and intensity of the Richmond-Adelaide Expressway in a way that it doesn't just tame it, but it draws it into a conversation with the landscape itself. It's a very tricky thing to do.
We wanted to create a building that would have a very unique identity. This is a conversation we had constantly through the years, that how we would make something different from the usual market. I think we created something very interesting, and we used the walls of the boxes sticking in and out to create balance.
The idea of bringing kind of a new geology, an invented geology to the site, was to, in a way, anchor the project in something which already had a three-dimensionality. So The different phases represent the different phases of the transformation of matter, of material, or a rock. The tower represents the transformation of matter from black to white. For example, that very pure monolithic object which is transformed with the wind, becoming white with the erosion of the environment. Very pure, like a crystal, connected to the sky, projecting some balcony to create some kind of visual confusion, and then projecting into the landscape back to the city of Toronto. So the black representing the original rock, the white, its purity when it's polished.
It's like a black and white urban film as a statement. Like today, if you make something in black and white, it stands out because everything else is colored. Theirs is much more exposition of urban relations because it's very cinematic. It's just exceptional composition.
The building sits in a way that will be seen different ways depend from where you approach it. That slight shift of angle of the tower itself to address the fact that, hey, downtown Toronto is in this direction, and obviously marketing-wise it's interesting to have these views downtown for many of those apartments. If you notice the organization of the buildings on site, you see how higher buildings or lower portion of the River City complex talks to the city, talks to downtown Toronto.
It really has a kind of multifaceted dimensions to its form, and it really creates a kind of striking landmark in the profile of the city, and I think that it makes a really positive contribution to the kind of overall arrival to the city itself.
The initial challenges with River City 3 were kind of twofold, really. One was to do with the flood protection landform, where we weren't allowed to build into it or put load onto it. So most residential developments would have a basement, and in your basement you would have mechanical rooms, electrical rooms, and a lot of parking. So in this project, those spaces were above ground. We're lucky to have bedrock that's 20 to 25 meters below, so a very good strata for bearing.
Essentially, you've got what is a 6-story parking garage ringed with residential units, and then popping out of that is a typical kind of slab residential building, and then popping out of that is a point tower. So you've got these kind of 3 typologies.
The second major challenge was how to make those residential boxes come in and out of the building and cantilever so far and so high up in the air. In the temporary condition, we installed caissons and temporary steel columns in order to prop up the 10-meter cantilevers of the walls and 8 stories high. We moved on to look at the load path. How could we basically cantilever out or create these, by use of steel reinforcing bars, tension hangers within the walls, and tie that back up to the top, and then use the full depth of those 8-story walls to strut back and use ties and zones of concentrated bars for columns within the walls.
It takes the exterior envelope and pushes and pulls and in and out, and it's never, no floor plate is the same. You might have a balcony condition that's over top of a terrace condition that's then over top of another unit that's recessed in.
On the residential upper walls, we had to figure out how to build them so far up in the air and so far above the podium. What we worked out was if we limited the maximum cantilever to 6 meters by using the formwork and the trusses, cantilevering out 1.5 meters at every level. If we use 4 sets of forms, we could get out the 6 meters without the need for multi-story high shoring.
Sustainability is one of the most important pillars for Waterfront Toronto. The entire West Don Lands was to be a LEED Gold neighborhood development. And so it was very important that our first building succeed at this so that we could achieve that throughout the entire community. And the designers really embraced the green space along the Don River, and they had that sort of green thread going all throughout the project.
I connect every project to the idea of nature. So this had quite an important impact on the way I'm working and the way I see the world. For me, when I was thinking of how to design those spaces, I was thinking of almost like the accumulation of moss on the rock. Seeing trees growing on one higher space and trees growing down. So the fact that we kind of spread the green space at different level, I think connect them all together.
Urban Capital really embraced the industrial nature of the site. The ramps go right between the north side of the project and the south side of the project. And that area underneath was dirty, garbage everywhere, would have felt very unsafe and really divided the two sides of the site. And we took it to our designers and said, here's what Urban Capital's thinking about that space. And what they did was they created Underpass Park. They designed a beautiful space that now has skateboard park, hockey rinks, basketball nets. It has playscape for children, and on top of that, beautiful public art and murals, and it is such a well-used and engaging space. We wouldn't have thought about that if David hadn't actually brought it up as a way to connect his sites in this urban space and in this very sort of industrial area.
River City is able to organize all of its elements and all of its units and all the people who live on that site in a very, very interesting way to create a community. And that community then shares its urban habitat with the entire city, and that to me is the most sustainable idea of Toronto.
I think River City has clearly had an impact on development, architecture, design in the City of Toronto. I feel lucky to have had the opportunity to take what was effectively derelict, empty land at the edge of the city and turn it into this development that I think everyone agrees is beautiful and noteworthy and has delivered unique and spectacular homes for 1,500 people. And RC3 in particular has taken 4 distinct blocks and tied them together architecturally. I also feel a certain sense of satisfaction that it turned out the way it did. It started in 2007, it's now 2021, it's now completed. Obviously it's a collaboration of many, many people. We said it would be unlike anything else, and it is. You know, after 15 years, that's a real accomplishment for everyone.
I think River City 3 as a tower basically makes the argument that things can be different. You know, Toronto has a history of either making, I think, red brick towers with small windows or all glass buildings with endless balconies around. And River City answers the question of what else can you do? What else is worth expressing? And that is an imposition of vision over the subject. Because inside those buildings got everything that any other residential building in Toronto has. Is just completely reshaped, reconsidered, and expressed in an entirely different way. There's no other building in the city that's like it. It actually shows a very different way of thinking about, you know, residential development.
In terms of city building revitalization, it is a whole new realm, and you see other developers now following suit.
It has set a new standard for what a private developer can do to really contribute not only to building homes for people, which is really important, but also contributing to the public realm. And now it's actually not just an address, but it's literally a neighborhood, a place in our city.
We wanted to create something where they would be surprised everywhere in the building. It's a profile or a shape of a building that you don't see often.
It's not only an apartment and view. It's a real environment which was fully created from scratch.
You can no longer imagine the city without those buildings, and they therefore become part of the collective image of the entire city.
It proves that you can do something iconic in the residential market. It's amazing to be able to build a building of this geometry where, you know, things are coming in and out at such height.
It's kind of a beacon, you know, when you're driving down the Don Valley, you can see it straight ahead, and then if you take the Richmond ramp, you kind of whip right by it, and it really is a striking building.
I'm very proud that at the end we achieved this idea that a condo can be more than boxes with window, something that creates a real environment and has the potential to create life and to please people.
I think that it's a really healthy thing for Toronto. It makes such a big contribution. It shows that you can do things differently, and the way in which it was designed and executed, and now the way it's lived in, elevates architecture in Canada as a whole. And I think it will only inspire other architects, but most important, how they create urban habitats. And that's the future. And that's the biggest gift that River City gives to Toronto and the world.
Thank you, David and Andre. For our final presentation in this session, we'll hear about Siamese Exclusive 31, located in Bangkok. This extremely practical orthogonal building plan is entirely at one with the grid network of its local precinct, and the apartment layouts are accordingly benefited. The building is then visually enriched by a softly uneven distribution of greened balconies, which talk to the park below and soften the area. Kajonsit Singsansoon, CEO of Siamese Asset Public Company, and Punpong Wiwatkul, Director of Somdoon Architects, will now present.
Good morning. My name is Kajonsit Singsansoon. I'm CEO of Siamese Asset Company. Siamese Asset Company is the property development company we established since 10 years ago. Up to now, we have the project on hand, about 20 projects in CBD of Bangkok. And we assign Somdoon Architect to be our designer. All the detailed design will explained by Somdoon Architect. Now the project already complete and very successful. Our customer very happy that they can have a very good property and living with a very good surrounding.
Hi, my name is Punpong from Somdoon Architect. I'm honored and very excited to present our project called Siamese Exclusive 31. It's a 21-story high-rise building condominium in Bangkok, the one in the center of the photo. The project is located along the Sukhumvit Road, one of the major roads in Bangkok with a SkyTrain. As the city is still growing, the areas along the road are getting denser and denser, and low-rise residential area are being replaced with higher density development like our project. So the approach to our site is from the sub-road of the Sukhumvit, and the surrounding building low-rise or up to 8-story residential building, except the one on the south, which is a high-rise condominium project as well. And before I go further about the project, I would like to talk on the project brief from the client. The project brief is quite simple. He wants the development to feel like a home for the residents while having the constraint of the high density requirement. So we interpret it into two design issues. One is about the privacy, and the second one is about the integration of the green area into the building and individual apartments. So to explain on the privacy issue, we start from the typical floor plan. We have introduced the concept of the private passenger lift. There are 6 of them, and each one will serve maximum only 2 units per floor. The residents can go to their designated lift from the basement car park or lobby, and you just go straight directly to their unit. And with this plan, the common area is minimized and is very efficient. The smallest unit of this project is a 1 bedroom, and it has a long and narrow plan. So we increase floor to floor height on the half of the tower. So the unit will get the better light, natural light into the unit from the full height window, while the living area can have a high ceiling space. And from the unit plan, we got the massing of the building. And because of the setback from the road, the top of the building has recessed. And that's where we put the facility and cantilever penthouse above. And this is the image of the completed building. This is the other side with a similar facade, but without the setback on the top. The second idea about integrating the green area into the design and distribute them to the individual apartment. So we started by looking at our neighbors. Some of them are still like 1-2-story houses with very big trees. So we want to continue that atmosphere to our development. So we put our building to the back and keep a big green area in the front where we can have very big trees there. So the green area continue from the ground floor to the building facade and up to the 18th floor, which is a facility floor with lap pools and a gyms area. This is another angle of the swimming pool with a cantilevered penthouse above. And the green continue to the rooftop, where we have a rooftop garden and outdoor pavilion. For the detail of the facade, where we put the green into the individual apartment, we started from the idea that every apartment should have at least one cantilevered balcony with trees and vertical green wall to give them the privacy. And we shift them or make them staggering so the tree can grow higher. And the soil depth are hidden below the balcony floor level so that the resident can use the balcony space more effectively. And this is the image of the smallest balcony of 1 bedroom unit without the extra height. And by doing the staggering, you can see that the tree can grow beyond the floor-to-floor height limit. And the residents start personalizing the balcony space by putting different furnitures, and some even put more potted plant in the area. And this is the wall facade. And all the trees, vertical green balls, and green areas also help to absorb the carbon dioxide. And from our research, it can absorb about 6.84 tons of carbon dioxide per year. So the design does not only provide a good privacy and comfort environment to the residents, but also good for the neighbor and the city. So we hope that the project can be one of the examples for the city future development. Thank you.
Thank you, Kajonsit and Punpong. This concludes our session, but please remember that this is only part 2 of 3 sessions in the under 100 metre height category. Be sure to join us after the break for part 3. Thank you.